Welcome back to the Other Side of 45 podcast. I'm your host, Randy Black. This podcast is about taking chances, owning my mistake, addressing generational family trauma and curses, completing my 50/50s by 50 lens, and generally my life as a single empty nester. If this is your first time listening, welcome. Please subscribe and rate this podcast 5 stars. So this is my first solo episode after doing 5 episodes for the X versus Z series, Life After High School. Um, the X versus Z series is on hiatus. Bye. And that's because the co-host, Bougie Canvas, is back on campus starting her senior year in college. Now, both girls are doing very well in school. They're busy. They're doing great things. It's only been 3 weeks, honey. And boy, I'm exhausted listening to what stuff they're doing. I'm so super proud of these girls and the young women they're becoming. So I'm living my life as a single empty nester again, and you can see the details on what all the good things I'm going to be doing because I got lots of fun things in store on the other side of 45's, the other side of 45's Instagram. Okay, so go check that out and you get details of what I'm doing. So I've also started a new job. I still have my HR job in retail, which gives me lots of access to Gen Zs as well. I do a lot of Gen Z, X versus Z episodes because I talk to them all the time. And I enjoy talking to them. And plus, my kids are Gen Zs. But anywho, so I want to talk about this episode particular does touch on a conversation that I had with a young lady who's in her mid-20s that I work with. Her name is Brittany. And Brittany and I have talked on several occasions. But this particular day, some time ago, she said something that caused me pause and made me a little worried about her. So she came to me talking about car insurance. At the time, Brittany didn't know that not only did I work in car insurance, I worked for the company that she uses for her car insurance. But anyway, the purpose of the conversation was that she didn't have the money to pay her monthly premium, so her insurance was canceled due to non-payment. Right? At the time when we had a conversation, it only had been a couple of days, so I told her, hey, make the payment. You won't get charged, or you won't have an issue with having lapse in coverage. Go ahead and make the payment. But she didn't have the money. So she was like, yeah, I got to figure out a way to decrease the cost of my insurance. And so we had a couple conversations and trying to figure out, how we can get her premium lowered. So a little background about Miss Brittany. Now she works 2 jobs, one with me and then the other in the service industry. And now she felt that her service industry job paid a decent amount and she enjoyed that job. Now, at 47, and I see someone with no children, no other responsibility other than taking care of yourself, and you tell me that your job pays pretty good, yet here you are not able to pay your monthly expenses. But she hates the retail job that we have together. I totally get it. Every job ain't for everybody. And Brittany is in Metro Atlanta. She does not have any family. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She came here to pursue her aspirations of working in entertainment. Cool. So that's her background. Back to the conversation. So Brittany told me that she's paying too much, right? So I'm looking at her. I said, so what is it that's included? Maybe you can reduce your car insurance payment by taking off some of the things that's covered. Do you already have the basics, or do you have extra stuff? Basics meaning anything that keeps your car insurance street worthy and legal. And we looked, and she only had really one thing on there that she could remove and still be legal. But I told her, you know what? I wouldn't really suggest it, but this is the only thing that you could probably remove that would reduce. I don't know how much it would reduce, but this would be the only thing. So a few things that will make your insurance more expensive. I'm not trying to give an insurance lesson, but I'm only bringing this up because this is the reason why Brittany's insurance is so high. She's a new driver. She didn't get her license as a teenager, so she's a late driver, which means she's new. her zip code. That absolutely has something to do with it. She's in her 20s. So those are kind of things that, being in a high crime area, the area that she lives in, I know that area is higher in crime. Not that she was in a horrible neighborhood, it's just higher than some of the other areas in Metro Atlanta. So all of these things are making her um, likely to file a claim, resulting in the high cost of her insurance. It's called anyway. Um, so we, I don't know if she took the other stuff off. I don't even know whether or not she paid her insurance. I just told her what I know. Um, I think she wanted to know if I would add her to my insurance. I think that's what she's trying to get at. But she going back to work because she kept saying, "Well, if I had somebody I can get on their insurance." Anyway, um, I not only just thought about this recently after our conversation, like weeks after that, because she kept bringing it up as I started replaying. I was like, I think she was trying to hint that I should have suggested that she get on my insurance. I don't know. It don't matter. It didn't work. Anywho, but in the midst of the conversation, she did mention, well, I'm in my 20s, so, you can make these little stupid decisions when you're 20. And I was like, well, people don't purposefully, and I'm thinking in my mind, I didn't get a chance to tell her that people don't purposely make stupid decisions when they're 20. They just do, and they don't know they're stupid decisions, but you already know that decisions you're making are stupid, and you're still doing it. That ain't because you're in your 20s. Well, maybe a little bit. But anyway. Anyway, she had mentioned several times that people had suggested she do call center shit. So I knew she hated call center jobs. So here we are. Fast forward to the last conversation and the point of this episode. So Brenda came to me. I'm in the office, and after we, exchanged greetings. Hey, how you doing? Whatever. And I was like, oh, I get a chance to talk to her because I legitimately have been worried about her. Before I could even say anything to her, she came to me because she needed some help, right? She asked me if I had AAA. And I immediately said yes, because a lot of people her age group assume they equate AAA with being roadside assistance. And I used to have AAA for many, many years, but I don't now because insurance for the car covers roadside because it's full coverage. And so I immediately said yes. And then I thought, I was like, oh crap, I don't. And then she said, well, can I use your AAA card? I don't know why I'm laughing. I know why, because I'm remembering that day. So she said, and I said, oh honey, I am so sorry. I just assumed we were going to talk about roadside assistance. And I actually don't have AAA. She said, oh, you got to do your insurance. I said, yeah, the card's insured and insurance covers roadside assistance. She said, oh, I really need somebody's AAA card. Now this thing, I didn't get you to tell this, Brittany, because the conversation went real left after this. Okay, yes. And so, look, AAA don't work like Netflix, honey. This is not here. Give me your username and password. That's not how this works for AAA. I know what she's referring to. They're talking about is if you're not in a safe place, like if she and I were driving and her car tire blew and she didn't have anything and we were stranded and I could call and say, hey, I'm in my friend's car. We're on X road. We have a blown tire. I need somebody to come out and change it. They would come do it. That's not what was going on here. So I didn't get a chance to explain that to her. But anyway, so I'm trying to help Britt, right? Because she needs to get her car back on the road. And so I said, well, honey, what's wrong with your car? And she says, well, it's shaking real bad when I drive it. I think it's an alignment. I might just need an alignment. So I said, where do you want to take it? So I'm looking, I'm in the office. I'm looking it up. Okay. So found a dealership she wants to go to. It's not that far from her house. I said, well, they did list some of their services and how much it would cost. But they didn't offer towing or anything, nor did they have a company they work with, thinking that it might be a little bit cheaper if you, whatever. It don't matter. It didn't work. So I said, well, now I remember when I had AAA, wasn't that expensive for a year membership. Maybe you should just get a membership. So I'm looking up, okay, let's see AAA membership. And it's like, y'all, it's less than $100. So I was like, I can't remember exactly amount. I want to say it was like $79. So I showed it to Brittany. I was like, look, sweetheart, look, you can get it. It's like $79. And she pauses a little bit and she's like, I don't have it. I was like, oh. She said, well, my car is safe. It's at home. And I just don't feel safe driving. It's really not that far from the thing. I was like, okay. Um, I even took ride share to get to work because I just feel so uncomfortable. So, I'm really trying to help her. So why don't you buy it? The triple A. And she says she don't have the money. So I'm like, okay, you got more problems than what you're admitting to. I didn't say this, but this is what I'm thinking. So I look at her and say, I'm so glad we have a chance to talk. Because she mentions this whole 20-year-old again. And I said, honey, you need to make more money because this membership is less than $100 and you don't have it. How do you think you're going to pay for the repairs? Because they're not going to be less than $79. Well, that's when things went left. She didn't like that. Honey, she went on this whole rant. So she's like, well, I'm in my 20s and I don't want to work. I said, because you need to make more money. I don't want to work in a call center. I don't want like 9 to 5 jobs. And I don't want to do this. And I know that I need to decrease my expenses. And so she paused and she talks about possibly getting a roommate. She said it, not me. And I was like, okay. She said, but I've tried that before. I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, fine, you've tried it. And she said, all my friends, they all are in relationships, all of that. I don't have that many anyway. And so they won't work either because I only want to live with somebody that I know, which makes sense. I wouldn't want to live with a stranger either. Now, I'm going to stop right here. Now, Brittany keeps bringing up bad decisions in his 20s. I made bad decisions in my 20s. I made them in my 30s, and I've been making them in my 40s. Most people don't set it up to make bad decisions in their 20s, 30s, or in 40s. But let me tell you, by the time I was Brittany's age, mid-20s, honey, I was married and had a baby. And my life, whole focus, the point of my life was to create a good life for my family. Honey, I just didn't know how to do it. So I didn't have anybody in my family with more experience to pull me aside and say, girl, this ain't it. You're doing the wrong thing. I had no one to give me sage advice. Nobody in my family, nobody family adjacent. I didn't have those kind of adult conversations. I had to figure it out on my own. Matter of fact, and I mentioned this on my podcast before, one of my siblings addressed this with my mother, and she was like, why didn't you tell us these things? Because my mom did not have these conversations with her. So my sibling asked her about it, and she would say, well, I just thought y'all was smart enough to figure it out. So she never told us anything about life lessons. Now, as far as budgeting, how to manage a household, credit, none of that. She didn't tell us none of it. We had to figure it out. I didn't even know what credit was until I was in my 30s. I mean, credit scores. I said that wrong. So I wanted something different for my children. I didn't want them to have to just be smart enough to figure it out. So honey, as it aged appropriate and as they got older, I shared my dirty, dark secrets with my children so they can learn from my mistakes and they wouldn't make the same ones. Matter of fact, when they left high school, I advised my girls. I had this conversation with them. I said, honey, you are entering a time in your life where I'm sorry and I didn't know, just ain't always gonna cut it. There are gonna be decisions and mistakes that you made that aren't gonna be that easy to get out of. So you always need to think about the consequences of your actions. So I encourage my girls, even to this day, to think about the person they want to be in 3 years and to make decisions now to be that person. So I've heard this said in different ways. Who you are today is because of decisions you made 3 years ago. Full disclosure. Like I said, I've heard it different. I heard it say 5 years, 2 years, six, whatever. I've heard it. But you get the point. Because we are a sum of our past. And even the group that I created, Black Girls Who Network, I told them about this saying. I said, they were all about to go to college. I said, you are where you are today because decisions you made 3 years ago. And they got it because they were all fresh out of high school. So they were like, yeah. And I said, because honey, you would have never gotten into college if you hadn't made the right decisions in high school. So they got it. And so I remind them all the time, think about who you want to be in 3 years. So don't go to college and act the darn fool and don't come out with a degree. Because if you want to have a degree when you come out of college, what you're doing while you're in college gonna dictate if you get the degree. You get what I'm saying? Y'all get it. They got it. So I keep instilling this in my children. So good, bad, or indifferent. We are all a sum of our past, the decisions, our background, our circumstances, things that happen to us and things that happen for us. That's who we are. Now, my daughter and I had a similar conversation that me and Brittany had. And she said that while she in her 20s, that she was not going to make really good decisions. She was saving that for when she gets older. In her 30s. I was like, what? Huh? Now let's it's important that I mention that my youngest daughter is very ambitious, okay? So she has her head firmly established, but she's astute. And the fact that she's not focused on making good decisions now because she's young. Look, I was amused, as you can see, but also a little annoyed because I thought, geez, yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, she makes really good decisions right now. I can only imagine what she could be doing. And this is her holding back. Like, for real. I just want to know. Make me understand this. Now, look, I don't want to stress her out. I absolutely do not want to stress her. I want her to be living a good life, having fun in college. But I do wonder, I wonder what she meant. But I wonder what she's holding back on us. So I came to the conclusion, this is not an isolated thought that Brittany is having. And she's probably repeating something that she's heard. But I personally like to believe that she's interpreting this the wrong way. Because I will admit, there were things that I did that I knew was a bad decision. And honey, when them consequences came rolling back, all I could do was accept them and not do it again. So we all do that. We all do that. And now my family, on the hand, they assume that when I found myself in similar bad situations, that I was purposely making bad decisions. Honey, I wasn't. I didn't want to be in those situations. It don't even matter. But I mean, I can admit that I took chances I shouldn't have. But I didn't have the support I needed to make better decisions. I didn't have anybody. It was me trying to figure it out. It was me being stressed out. It was me being traumatized. That part of me was not in a good space. And I was just trying to get through it, honey. And oh gosh, looking back at 47, I wish someone had stopped me and said, hey, you really need to start thinking about consequences. And I've apologized to my girls and they understand. But that don't make me feel better that they understand that I was trying, I was making mistakes that I shouldn't have. And I know that I'm judging yesterday's Randy based on today's Randy. But that's why when I see young women like Brittany who don't have someone who can help them process what's next, I try to offer my advice and assistance. But I think that's where I made my mistake. Not everyone wants to be helped in that way. That day, in Brittany's case, all she wanted was my AAA membership to her car. Now, I've already explained that was never going to happen. But what she got was much more than that. And that's where I should have stopped. And I learned my lesson for sure. I will never, ever, ever, ever again. So anyway, we're going to go back to the story. So I Googled the dealership she wanted to use. We talked about her getting the membership and that, I'm just trying to catch y'all back up because I done went on a tangent. That she don't got the $79 membership fee. Okay, here we go. So, my good news turned into bad news when Brittany told me that she had money. Because I was like, hey, girl, it was $79 and then you have AAA for a whole year with something she clearly needed. And The fact that she didn't have it really caused me an alarm. I was like, "What? Your butt got two jobs and no kids, and you ain't got $79?" So I think I didn't respond like this. I did say those things, but it was way more professional because I was at work. Anyway, so um, I offered. I said, "Well, honey, we need to get you some more money." I said, "We need to concentrate on fixing the actual problem because you not being able to afford a tow and ultimately the repairs is only part of it. You actually have a I don't make enough money problem." Um, I She disagreed, and she went back to that. So her whole I don't want to work in a call center, even though I did not mention that. Yeah, again, here she goes with this call center, and she said, "Well, I'm not working in no 9 to 5. I ain't working in no call center, and blah 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 blah. And I'm in my 20s, and I can make mistakes, and blah 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 blah. And if it ain't in the entertainment field, I don't want to do it, and blah 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 blah." And I was like, "What the heck?" So after she took a breath and let me talk, I said, "Honey, I ain't suggest that you work in a call center." I said, "Matter of fact, you the one who brought that up." I said, "All I said was I'm willing to help you to find something that paid more." I said, "Now you said you don't hate your service industry job, and I thought maybe you can move up and make more money there." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do that." Okay. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this ain't gonna work because there are solutions. She don't want solutions. She want a AAA membership to get her car towed. So I was like, okay, we got to end this call. We got to end this conversation. But I dug in deep because she kept ranting. So I did a deep breath and I said, "Sweetheart, it sounds like to me you just want to wallow." Girl, why I said that? Here she go again. She interjected. "I don't think I'm the victim. I am not wallowing self pity. I just don't want to do anything that you suggest." I said, "Well, I didn't suggest anything. Only thing I suggested is, the only thing I did was ask you, could you see if you can make more money where you in the job that you like?" And you already said no. And also, I didn't say you were wallowing in self pity. I just said you were wallowing, but you are in fact wallowing. I said you're taking that way too little, but you are in fact wallowing. I said, you know you need a roommate, but you don't want one. You know you need a better job, but you don't want to get one. You said you don't only want to work um out in the entertainment industry, but here you stand at a job right now that isn't paying you to be in entertainment, and yet you are working here. Matter of fact, you have two jobs that aren't in the entertainment field, and they don't pay you enough to afford a $79 membership or repairs for a car that needs to be repaired or to pay for insurance. I said, "Nah, let's be real here, honey. Um, you don't want solutions. You know that there are ways to solve your problems and you don't want them. And that's fine. Because, honey, if you want to wallow, you can do it. No one's going to stop you. Also, get this, no one is coming to save you. So if you want to continue to live your life like this, nobody is going to stop you and no one is going to judge you. You can continue to be unhappy because she has mentioned several times that she's unhappy. And no one's going to stop you from being unhappy ever. I told you that you were on my mind because of the comments you made about being in your 20s and that it's expected that you would make bad decisions. And I just wanted to offer my help and to help you create a plan that will put you in a better financial situation until you can start making money doing what you want to do. But you don't have to accept it. And based on your reaction, I know that you don't want it. You want to use your youth as an excuse. And that's okay. But I want to tell you this. There's a one. I said, I wanted to share this with you. And I'm going to share this with you, honey. There was a young lady on a podcast, an investment podcast that I listened to. And I listen to investment podcasts all the time. And I share the information with my children to help them with their investing. So there was a woman, she's exactly your age. She's a single mom. Now she submitted a question to this podcast about a certain investment. I said, I told her, admit I don't know what investment was because it wasn't something that I wanted to invest in. And but the point of was it this, sweetheart? She's exactly your age with a child. And she said she makes about $65,000 a year. And she was telling them how much she was spending on her 401k and she wanted to invest more. And here you have somebody in their 20s, your exact age, makes more money than you, who's investing in her future. So this whole thing where you want to use your youth as an excuse when there are people your age who are thinking about their future selves. Now, if you ask, you get the point. If you want to get out of this and get to a place where you have some financial freedom, I can help you create a plan to do that. But I don't think that's where you are yet, and that's fine. And we ended the conversation, and she went on about her business, right? Okay. So this is the thing. The reason why people say that they make mistakes in their 20s isn't because they do so intentionally. It's like, oh, I'm going to make all the dumbness. Most people don't go into a bad decision with the whole goal of having to, that they're going to make bad decisions. They don't. They just know that they're bad decisions because of hindsight. And I was like, oh, that didn't turn out right. I probably shouldn't have done that. That's what they mean, usually. Except these new people. Oh, my God. But they're still in their 20s. They won't know until they're in their 30s. And then they will go back and say, oh, that was really stupid. She don't get it. So she left, came back. And we talked again. And she said that she left and she was crying. And I was like, oh God, I don't make a child cry. She said, when y'all left talking to you, I started crying. I was like, oh honey, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to offer my help. And she was like, no, I was crying because you were right. And I was like, I want to think, girl, I know I'm right. But anyway. She said, you're right. I've known for a while that I should be making better decisions. And I was like, honey, we all do that. I said, listen, Brittany. I said, I want you to understand that, yes, you're going to make some bad mistakes and bad decisions in your 20s. That doesn't mean when you know that it's a bad decision that you keep doing it. I said, you're unhappy? She said, yeah, I am unhappy and I can't afford my life. I said, well, honey, if you want future Brittany to live a better life, then current Brittany has to make some different decisions. Your life isn't going to change just because you turn 30. Future Brittany is going to be living the life that present day Brittany builds. So if you do not like what you see, you're going to have to change what you're doing. So after that, we had a pretty good conversation. I will tell you this though. I ain't helping her no more, and I told her so. I said, girl, I ain't helping you no more. She said, yes, you are. I said, girl, I'm not. She don't know me yet. Anyway, and I'll tell you why before you say, well, she's young. Let me tell you something. Her reaction showed me that she lacks the maturity needed for me to refer to her to anybody I know, and I do know somebody. But I want to share this, guys. It's on my phone. I'm laughing. Y'all know I love me some Leave It to Beaver. I prefer Andy Griffith, but they took it off for free, and I'm not paying for that. So I'm gonna Leave It to Beaver clue. So I watch Leave It to Beaver just about every day. All right. And so this episode, Wally had bought this broke down car, and he didn't ask his parents' permission. He just brought it, and him and Lumpy had literally pushed it with Lumpy's car into the driveway, right? And the car got stuck behind Ward's car, and Ward couldn't get out. And Ward warned Wally, you better have that car moved. And Wally was like, oh my God, I gotta move the car before Dad goes to work tomorrow. He gonna go to work, he gonna be mad, right? So I'm gonna play y'all the clip because Wally invited Lumpy. He said, hey, bring some of the guys, bring your car tools. I got an emergency. So listen to the conversation between Wally and the Beaver.
Look, Beaver, as soon as the guy gets over 15, you automatically He knows everything about cars.
Okay, that is so untrue. Um, and I do believe that that's what Brittany thinks. As soon as I get 30, all the stuff that I did in my 20s is gonna disappear, and I ain't gonna live for any of my consequences, and everybody's gonna know because I was just in my 20s. It's gonna be all right, honey. That's not gonna happen. Because guess what? My kids thought the same thing. When they were little, they thought, man, as soon as I turn 16, my life's gonna change. No, it's not. Your life don't work like that. You get what you get based on what you gave. Okay. I did not get this type of advice when I was in my 20s or ever. Never got that advice. But I made sure my daughters did. My daughters started investing in stock in 2020 when stock was plummeting. So they have stock that they bought. Now they know more about investing than I did in my 20s or my 30s. And they keep up with it. And we have actual conversations, me and my girls, about investing, about diversifying their portfolio, and about real estate. None of these conversations anybody ever had with me, ever. I learned, and then I made sure that what I learned, I shared with them. And that's a generation and family curse that I broke for my girls. So when I encounter young people like Brittany, I try to share that. And I know that my daughters don't have to learn financial literacy the hard way. So for that, I can take a deep breath and smile because, like the great Mary J. Blige says in the theme song for My Life Just Fine, guess what? When I think about this, I like what I see when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror. Don't stress through the night. Had a time in my life. Ain't worried about it if you feel it. I got my, well, it says, got my head on straight, got my vibe right. I ain't gonna let you kill it. You see, I wouldn't change my life. My life's just fine. Meet me on the other side of 45's podcast, website, Instagram. New episodes will be released every Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to rate the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so others can find it. And it also helps me grow my podcast. Your feedback and your support is greatly appreciated. Till next week, have a happy Labor Day.